Hi everyone. Today I want to talk about something very painful, personal, but at the same time something that I believe a lot of humanitarians can relate to. And I invited one of my amazing clients and also someone who's very naturally good at speaking about these topics, I feel.
Thank,
So that's why Aisha, welcome to my live channel with me.
thank you, yourself. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the
Absolutely.
amazing
So
topic.
yes, Aisha and I were reflecting on how much of the difficulties and pain that we carry, we have been carrying probably for a long time, especially being humanitarian also for a long time, right? So, and then how we have gone about healing and how we're continuing going through that process. And I thought that today could be a great occasion to talk about how we may have used our humanitarian role, our UN job as a way to escape from a lot of things. And then now, after a lot of years of escaping, it feels like now coming home and facing whatever we were escaping, right? So that's why,
Yeah.
Aisha, maybe we start with introducing you and then we go into some of the topics that we'd like to talk about.
Okay. So yeah, my name is Aisha. I am originally from Sierra Leone. I live in the US right now. I am a mother. But I worked in South Sudan and I worked in the humanitarian field for, I would say, most of my life. I stopped when I finished my first degree in university. I started working at that time in Sierra Leone. We just finished a civil war, and so I worked with the Truth Commission. I worked with the Special Court, and that meant that I had to be going out, not only in the capital city but out in the field, and I was interacting a lot with victims, with people who had gone through the war. And I would say that's where my sort of covering the pain started, because during all the fighting, I was in Sierra Leone, I experienced it too.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I was going out there, I was interacting with victims, working with victims, even adopting some of them, taking them into my home. And so I guess that's where, but maybe before I got to that, I had already, I would say, perfected how to cover pain,
Mm,
because in my life I'd gone through quite a lot of things. So that's something that we would have to talk about later. And then later on, when after I finished working with the special court, I came to the US. I studied. Um, I did two masters, and then I went to South Sudan first as a UN volunteer. And yeah, if you know the history of what's going on in South Sudan, it's a lot of pain going on there. It's um, a lot of things going on there. And sometimes you look at your life and you say, I've been going through all of this. But when you meet the people who you feel like you were just rehearsing where they are actually, you see what they're experiencing, but somehow you're able to relate with that, you're able to identify with that, and you're able to use that as your cover.
mm-hmm.
So you keep your pain and you sort of step out and
Yeah.
sort of try to carry other people's pain. And maybe
Yeah.
what you're doing is you're not really healing. You've never really even started a journey of healing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You've
Mm-hmm.
never really even looked inwardly to say,
Yes.
what sickness do I carry? And when we talk about sickness, we're not talking about the physical.
Yeah.
We're talking about that sickness that you carry in your spirit, in your soul, that
Mm-hmm.
brokenness. You probably
Yes.
never looked into it, but then you're in a situation that helps you to cover that. You're seeing other people's
Yeah.
brokenness, you're seeing other people's, you know, psychological, mental, whatever they're going through, the physical pain they're going through. They're running every day from one thing to the other. And you tend to sort of forget your own, and hide. That's a
Yes.
perfect hiding place for you, and you keep hiding that pain.
Oh my God, Aisha. I think this is like one of those things that, whenever I talk to people about this, it's so at the moment, probably I was justified. Like I did this with myself as well. And I think my biggest justification was I am following my passion. I am here to save others in some way, right? And I think that was
Mhm,
like I don't know, when I started my humanitarian journey, saving others was a big thing, making a difference was a big thing, right? And then I think it was also a perfect place where I was really hiding from all the violence that I experienced in my family,
mhm,
all the tragic stories that I experienced in my family. And then it was like the safe haven in that way to say, okay, if I'm busy with other people's pains,
mhm,
especially refugees, right? I was working at the time with refugees from Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan. Of course, the scale of tragedies cannot be compared, but still, I think these were like the occasions where you just be so busy, so avoiding everything that I remember even at time that like coming home late so I don't need to think about it, right?
mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
or on the weekend, not to be thinking about things. You just go and work because that's
Mhm.
easier that way than dealing with whatever pain you're going through, right?
Because you keep working the whole time, and
Yeah.
the tag humanitarian aid worker fits perfectly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Serving others,
Yes,
'cause that's
exactly.
what we say, we're serving the beneficiaries, the people we serve,
Yeah.
and we carry that tag so beautifully, so strongly.
Yeah.
We're serving the people we serve, the beneficiaries. We're speaking to those women. We're speaking to the children. We're scooping them up. They're crying in our arms, and it makes you completely forget what you're doing. And we're working in these situations where, for people who probably worked in the country offices, some of them, they probably had some break. But if you're working in the field, like I'm speaking now to those people who are working like in deep field situations where you're sleeping in tent, you're
Mm-hmm.
running after refugees, displaced populations. You're hiding under that. You're carrying that pain. You're serving humanity, right?
Yeah.
And you completely forget that you probably need to serve yourself too.
Yeah.
You're saving others. You probably need to save yourself too,
Yeah.
and you completely forget about that.
Yeah.
You completely forget about that. You work over the weekends. You spend most of your time in the field just working. You don't have time. You don't have time to think, right?
Yeah.
You're ignoring people. When I say people, I mean back home now, you're even ignoring.
Yes.
Uh, it's a perfect excuse not to face those people who, quote unquote, hurt you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Exactly.
you don't have time for them, so you're not thinking about them. You put them in the
Yeah.
back corner. They don't matter anymore because you're busy. Your life is busy. You're serving others, you're saving others.
Yeah.
So those people who you probably needed to go back to those things that you went through, that you probably needed to reconcile your life with, you're
Yeah.
not thinking about them anymore because you have the perfect excuse right now. You're very busy saving
Yes.
others.
Exactly. So I just want to also clarify that we're not saying that don't do those things, right? And I
No,
think
no.
that's important that like especially if we're talking to humanitarians, to be
Mm,
young
mm,
people who are about to go and experience how this is for themselves, what we
mhm,
are really advocating is in addition to serving and being in that environment doing those wonderful works, also
mhm.
important to know that if you're doing it out of escaping whatever the unresolved things inside you,
Mhm.
those unresolved things will come back and
Yeah,
bite you. That's really what we're
yeah,
saying.
yeah. It's like the saying, "Doctor, heal thyself." You know,
Mm,
Doctor, heal thyself. Savior, save thyself. Um, you have to have a place that before we came on I was telling you about this the message that I listened to yesterday, and the man was talking about healing spiritually,
Mm-hmm.
physically, and bodily, because sometimes we don't realize that sometimes the sicknesses that we face, especially as we grow older, we do not realize that they probably started from the soul. It's a bitterness that is
Mm-hmm.
kept somewhere. It's a hurt that is kept somewhere. It's a pain that is kept somewhere. So, whilst it is good to help others in their healing journey, because that's what as humanitarians, that's what we're doing. We're helping people in their healing journeys, their recovery journeys.
Mm-hmm.
They something happened to them, they have to recover, they have to heal, they have to go past that moment. We're helping them, we're holding their hands and say, we're here, we'll help you cross over. Great, that is a fantastic thing to do. But please do not forget that when they come to the prison and say, count 10 prisoners out, you start number one. Don't count 10 people and leave yourself behind. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
When they say, who are the people who are here to receive blessings? Don't count one, two, three, four, and you reach to 10 and you forget that you're there. You should make sure that you involve yourself. So you do not get left behind. You're not left behind. So when you're talking about healing, and one thing I learned also is that in healing yourself, one of the ways you heal is to help others heal as well.
Mm.
But you'll be able to help others, and you'll be able to recognize and maybe enjoy that healing for yourself if you look inward. But most times, what we do is we use the situations that we work in, our work environment, our busy life, the position that you hold, you're trying to serve others, and you forget to look inward. And
Yeah.
maybe you start looking inward too late, and then
Mm.
you come back, maybe you're not working with the UN anymore, something happens, and one of the things you have to know is, great, have these jobs, but these jobs, like we would say among some of my friend circles, they're not loyal to you.
Mm.
They're not loyal to you. So most times we're very loyal to these jobs, to the point where we ignore ourselves, to the point where we
Yes.
hide our pains. We use them as a cover to hide
Yeah.
ourselves instead of using them as a means of healing ourselves, as a
Yeah.
means of reflection.
Yeah. Excellent way of putting it. So the way that I'm thinking about is that the escaping was at the time to not only feel whatever I was going through, right, but also believing that the system that I was working for would somehow help me ignore and get over it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think that's an important recognition maybe is that at the time, probably like many of humanitarians, I didn't have the tools to know that escaping doesn't mean that things will just go away on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And escaping also doesn't mean that the system will somehow help me work through them, right? Because it's not the system's job in some way,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
also it's my personal individual job to go
Mm-hmm.
through and look inwards, as we said, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, therefore, recognizing those two elements then help me understand that, okay, if I am suffering from the consequence of not looking at my own pain, and the consequences were the burnout, the depression, and essentially numbness and apathy of not wanting to even like I think the level of escaping was such that I was functioning, and I was functioning well because I've been
You
trained how to function well,
you were
right?
dysfunctioning functioning
Exactly. Yeah,
the
exactly.
functioner, if I can put it that way. You were dysfunctioning uh performer, right? So you
Yes, I
perform
love that.
excellently, your probably your PRs, your
I
review
know what you
and
mean.
yearly reviews will come out excellent, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Meanwhile,
yeah.
you still had a dysfunction.
Exactly. So I think that's a great way to put it is like dysfunctioning on the inside,
Hmm.
functioning on the outside, because
Yes.
somehow things need to be carried further, somehow things need to be performed, right? Somehow things need to be continuing the way they always did. And then at some point to realize that, okay, somehow my outside of how other people view me don't match how
Hmm.
I view myself
It's tough.
inside, deep inside, right? And
Yeah.
then realizing that difference between the inside and outside
Yeah.
can't go away unless I really look at all the shitty, painful things and decide
Yeah.
what to do with them.
It's like what people would usually say about comedians. They would tell you that most comedians are usually the most depressed people, because what they do
Mm,
is they will make people laugh. They will, they will light up other people's world. Meanwhile, they're fighting this demon of depression and anxiety and anger and bitterness. So you find that you hear sometimes they say, "Oh, they took their own, lives or whatever." And like, but they made me laugh so much. They were
mm-hmm,
so funny. S-
mm-hmm,
Then you realize all along they were fighting with, these things. And it reminds me of when I was even like younger, when I was like in high school. I used to be the person who would laugh all the time, to the
mm-hmm,
point I had a nickname. They were calling me Laughing Stock because everything I
mm-hmm,
would laugh about. But then one day, one of my friends in school that time, we were all at the same age. This would be like, I would say maybe 10th grade, in secondary school. That's a form four. Her mother was a doctor, a medical doctor. And so she went home apparently and told her mom about this girl in class who's always laughing, who's always happy, who's always laughing. And the mom said something to her. The mom said, they need to go check. They need to check her. Something is probably wrong with her. Nobody can just be laughing.
mm-hmm,
That was the real medical doctor because she
mm-hmm,
was able to pick that up. So the kid came back from back to school the next day, and there I was going about laughing, and then she said, "Ah, you, Aisha, I was telling my mom that there's this girl in my class who's always laughing. And my mom said something is wrong with you because you cannot just be laughing like that." Immediately, imagine I was in the middle of laughing about something. Immediately,
mm-hmm,
I busted out crying. That was my first experience of somebody picking out that not everybody that is laughing and happy and joke, not all of them, people carry so much. That is why, sometimes they say,
yeah,
be kind to others because you don't know what they're dealing with,
yeah,
right? So that was my experience because even as a kid, I had learned how to cover these things. I'd learned how to cover
mm,
that thing because at that very moment I was going through a painful experience or painful experiences in my life, and
yeah,
nobody knew that. So I would
yeah,
come home and I would be laughing and I'll be the happiest kid around.
yeah,
Meanwhile, I was dealing with so much, even at that young age, I was dealing with so much pain. I don't think even if I tried to explain it, I would have the words to. But
mm-hmm,
that kid summed it up in one sentence because her mom told her,
yeah,
something. So
yeah,
that's what happens sometimes. We function, we perform well. We have great reviews at work. We're bringing in the results, we're bringing in the reports, we're doing the job. But what are we inside? We're
yeah,
broken inside, completely broken. And we don't even know where to start to put ourselves together. So we use these jobs to cover ourselves,
yeah.
to cover this
So
pain.
Aisha, I think what maybe people are listening to us and watching us, right? And like probably a lot of them resonate with what we're saying. And the purpose of Aisha and I being very vulnerable and talking about this is really, I think, also not making it like something so taboo and I don't know, disastrous that you can't you are afraid to even look at it, right?
Yeah, we don't
That's why
talk
we
about it. Yeah.
exactly. So we want to in some way to make it accessible and saying probably many of us are going through this, and also knowing that it might be human to go through, and how do we like remove the taboo and the disastrousness of it, and how do we look at it from a, where do we start and how do we
From yeah,
heal, right?
from a
What's
healing
helping
perspective.
us? Exactly.
Yeah,
So if you want to talk about that, what has been useful and helpful for you in your journey of, okay, I'm done the hiding and the escaping, now is the time to looking inwards and looking what's happening, what has been helping in this journey?
it's interesting when you say that one of the reasons why we're talking about this now is because people have to start to, first of all, acknowledge where they are with their lives, the pain they're carrying, and that they can still continue to do this work. One of the things that came to mind as you started talking about that was the fact that the truth is we actually have resources, even with the UN, even with humanitarian
Yeah.
organizations. Most organizations, they have counselors, they have welfare, you know, but we still view them as jobs, right? We still
Yeah,
view
I know
them
what you
as
mean.
that's our
Additional
colleague.
thing to do.
Yeah, that's our colleague. He's a welfare, he's a staff counselor. So
Yeah.
even when they're telling you, if you're going through something, reach out, talk to the staff counselor. We don't usually recognize that that's one of the ways that we can, those are some resources that we can tap into. If you think about it, maybe you have a staff welfare. If you're not comfortable with talking to the one in your office, maybe because of personal reasons, maybe you feel like your information is not safe, maybe you can reach out to another one in another organization, because after all, we all share, these resources, right?
Yeah.
So I say that because one of the things that helped me was, I remember when I was, this was maybe like in the last 4 years. One of my daughters was going through a lot, and that's one of the things also, because what happens is you have that pain, and you keep putting your all into the work, and you ignore the fact that sometimes we can transfer the pain, we can transfer the rejection, we can transfer, whatever it is we're
Yeah.
dealing with, we can actually transfer them to the ones after us, our children, our family members. And so maybe my one of my daughters was actually going through maybe some experiences, and I didn't know how to deal with it because I was at work in South Sudan and she was all the way in Africa, um, being taken care of. And so the one of the resources that helped me was the staff welfare, was sitting all the way in Geneva. So somebody said to me, I remember that day I was falling apart because, when it comes to your children, now you don't even know what to do. I just wanted to drop everything and run. And somebody said, why don't you talk to the welfare? He might have some ways to help you. And I remember reaching out to him, and he was really helpful. If not for anything, he spoke to me, he walked me through some of the emotions that I was going through, and even helped me to process what was going through with my child. So that's one of the things that helped me. It did not stop me from say, okay, now I should look inside and start healing. That did not happen until now that I'm sort of, I would say, I've stepped out of the UN. And then I started looking, and the reason why we were even connected was because I think one day I just came across your video, and you were talking about, when we get to the position when we feel like we've wasted our time. And that video was it's just struck me like, yeah, this is what I've been doing. Like, what have you been doing with yourself? And you take your whole life and you put it in front of you, and you cannot even tell yourself what your life is, right? And I remember reaching out to you to say, I don't know how I came across this video, but I think God just used you to speak to me because this is me. So you sometimes you have to sit down and reflect. And even if you don't have to wait until you get out of the UN.
Yeah.
You don't have to wait until you get out of the humanitarian work, that NGO, that aid work that you're doing. You don't have to wait until you get there. Maybe this conversation that we're having now is a call to you to say,
Mm-hmm.
stop, stop, take a
Yeah.
break, stop, take an inward look, rest, because we don't rest. And when
Yeah.
you don't rest, you don't have time to reflect.
Mm-hmm.
When we have our R&Rs and our breaks, we go back. Usually, maybe we say we're going for vacation. Some of us might travel to these countries. What do you do? Do you sit down and rest and reflect and take a pen and paper and say, what's my life like? What do I need to change?
Mm-hmm.
What do I need to deal with? Do we do that, or we just, wear our shirts and take our bags, take our cameras, and then 1 week off, you're back to
Yeah.
the same old cycle?
Yeah.
Or sometimes we go back to the family members, to the people who have actually hurt us. And surprise, surprise, we even give them the money, the resources
Yeah.
that we earn from. They even enjoy it from it. We even spend it on them.
I know. Aisha and I talked a lot about how we keep supporting family members, that we should have resolved a lot of things with
Yes,
them, but instead of doing it, we're like, okay, can I just give you the resources to support and then
yes, yes.
like forget about the past, and everything
Yes,
is
we've never
fine.
confronted it, right? When we keep so it's funny that maybe by the time you want to confront, they're looking at you like, what is she talking about?
Yes, exactly.
What are you talking about? Pain?
Yeah.
How? You know,
It was
because
ages ago, right? Yeah.
yeah, because we keep going through the cycles, and that is what pain does. That is what unresolved pain, unresolved brokenness, unresolved hurt, things that we need to heal from. When we don't heal them, that's what happens to us. They take us through a cycle. We keep going
Mm-hmm.
through a cycle and a
Mm-hmm.
cycle and a cycle
Yeah.
you know and I one of the things that I started doing was really just I've been a Christian, but sometimes you focus on work so much that even your spiritual life you forget
Yes.
about it, right? So now I have time to sit back and reflect and see how I allowed my pain, I allowed how I was trying to run away from my life. Now I'm actually confronting that life that I'm trying to run away from, and how the only way I can be healed from this is, turn back to God, turn back to my spiritual life, start looking in. Because, like I said, I was listening to this preacher yesterday, and he was talking about healing spiritually and then healing, you know, in terms of psychologically. And that's, for me, is the biggest pain,
Mm-hmm.
those psychological pain, you know the brokenness, the hurts, the rejection, the low self-esteem. Somebody said something to you, and even in that job, maybe you're working so hard but nobody is even recognizing that job.
Yes.
And they keep diminishing you, they keep diminishing you. You will be there for years, you've put all your all, and somebody comes from nowhere, and that person is automatically your boss.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to act like it doesn't matter, but it does,
Yeah.
because this is an organization where you put your all, right? You've put sweat and blood, basically.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then somebody comes from nowhere,
Yeah.
and you're still in the same position. Maybe you're even trying to look to go up the ladder, but
Yeah.
you know or maybe if they
Exactly.
give it to you, it's like pittance. It's like, we're doing you a favor,
Yeah.
right?
I know.
So all of that, you have to find a way to start dealing with it, even whilst you are in that job. And sometimes you have to really take stop. You have to stop and ask yourself, is this really what I want to do?
Yeah.
Because we get lost, we run away from ourselves, and sometimes we even run away from what God really wants us to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we
Yeah.
cannot confront ourselves. Sometimes you might not even recognize that you probably are meant to be bigger than what you are.
Mm-hmm.
right? You're meant to be bigger than what you are, but you're satisfied with where you are. You don't. We get to the point where you don't even want to apply too much for anything. Maybe for those people who are being recycled from one country to the other after every 2 years, I think
Yeah.
UNHCR they have these opportunities. You look for another. You don't look for a duty station like that. People usually who are in these non-family duty stations, it's they don't want to get out the non-family duty stations.
Mm.
Something has to happen for them to, what are you hiding from? What are you running
Mm-hmm.
away from? What is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have to stop sometimes and say, what is going on with me? Okay, I've helped this person, I've healed hundreds of people. I'm here supporting this displaced people. They even trust you, they're looking for you. You have become a familiar face. That's what happened to me. I've become a familiar face. They know you by name, they see you from afar, they know it's you. But what have I done with my own life? How much healing have I had?
Yeah.
you know
Absolutely. And I think this other reflection really is, if we haven't dealt with whatever it is that we've been running away from, I have seen that that makes us so much in the want to stay in the safe zone, but safe zone oftentimes being also the pain zone, if you will, right? So we're
Yes,
really
that's
like,
that's a familiar zone for us.
exactly, right? The pain
Yeah.
zone unfortunately becomes like the familiar safe
Yeah.
zone. And even if we're suffering in that zone, we know at least how that zone looks like, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
therefore, it becomes so challenging to get out of it. And it, like, almost like we're, part of us knows that this is not good for us. And the other
Mhm.
part is literally like dragging us
Yep.
back to, no, no, no,
Yep.
you should
Yep.
be here.
Yeah, you should be
There
here.
is no other way. And plus, now is the funding cut. Of course, our that part is winning even more, right? Saying,
Yes.
oh,
Yes.
where are you going to go?
Yes.
There are
Yes.
no funds anywhere.
Yeah.
Even if you go and leave this non-family duty station, I mean, forget about the family, because if you couldn't get the family duty station before, why would you get it now, right? So our that part of us wants to so much convince that this is where we should continue being,
Mm-hmm.
except that we keep making so much of the suffering and so much of the pain so normal to a point that we don't want to even transition to things that we could have,
Yeah.
grow into the areas that we could have. But because of that unresolved aspects, that we're just choosing to play safe. And that's really maybe another awareness that we need to gain, to say,
Mm,
okay, what if it's not possible to escape and run away from ourselves? What if
mm,
it's eventually we need to deal with it sooner or later?
mhm.
And doing it later might be a bit more complicated, right? So, how about doing it now? And if we do it now, then what is our way of doing it? Is it through a spiritual journey? Is it through a religion? Is it through staff counselor or whatever counselor that you have? Or is it through other means, whatever that works for you, that you
Yeah,
start doing it?
it can be a mixture of several means. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, for me, I first of all, I had to start looking in because there's so many things that I would say I'm actually I probably just even started that journey, and it's a really
Mm-hmm.
really really long journey, because imagine the years of pain and everything that you've just kept in there. It's like
Yeah.
you took a very huge weight and put it down, so it
Mm-hmm.
will not show its head, and now the weight is shifting and it's beginning to show up, so
Yeah.
it means that sometimes you become re-traumatized, you become, and we're working in situations that don't help really, because what they
Yeah.
do is you're working in very traumatic situations, you
Yeah.
know so for me it started with me falling sick. Like I fell sick, and thank God it happened. It actually happened when I came back home to the US.
Mm.
Um, if it had probably happened in the field where I was, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. So I
Mm-hmm.
usually say it's like God just told me, sit your butt down and listen and look. That's what happened to me. I
Yeah.
mean, the way that I felt sick, the way it was just so, and then everything started coming in. I had to
Yeah.
start, I had to start I had to start doing therapy. I had to start, and so many things going on. And up till now, I'm just, trying to figure things out. Things are
Yeah.
showing up, and sometimes in your quiet space, you break down. You sometimes you don't even want to think about where you were working before, because then that trauma shows up, and then your past shows up, and it's a lot of things happening. But one of the things I know is you have to be determined within yourself to say, I need this healing. So that's the first thing. You need to recognize, first of all, that
Yeah.
this has to stop. Enough,
Yeah.
enough. It stops right here. And I need to confront it. I mean,
Yeah.
if I've been carrying it all this time, it means I can confront it, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. And also
If
I
it's the
think the
pain.
other
Go
and I
ahead.
think that's the thing is that once we confront it, I think a lot of people have this idea that it's something that we can't almost handle, kind of thing, right? And of course,
Yeah.
there are a lot of different spaces, therapy and other spaces for handling it together with other people. But also, my personal experience has been that I wanted to really understand for myself how and why I kept putting myself in situations of depression and numbness and apathy.
Mhm.
And I really wanted to break free from those patterns, right? So that's why looking at it also from a very curious perspective and not dramatizing and not like
Mhm.
making it tragic, right? But
Mhm.
looking from the perspective of what if I'm able to confront whatever I'm generating or whatever I'm carrying with me or I have been carrying for so long, and then to understand, is there a way that I can break free from it?
Mhm.
And even if it takes whatever it takes, but I think important part is if we are capable of looking at it and understanding it and also looking at it with love and compassion, obviously, just like we would with other people, right?
Mhm.
And not say things like, well, I shouldn't have done this, my life is all waste and
You
whatever,
beat
whatever.
yourself down, yeah.
Exactly. Don't do that. I always tell people if you are on a motorcycle and you fell, you wouldn't be bitching about it. Other
You
people will
get up
coming
and
and
yeah.
exactly, right? If you saw someone in that position, you would be coming and asking how that you can help them. You wouldn't be bitching or biting like I don't
Mhm.
know, beating themselves up saying how could you fell, are you stupid or
Yeah.
whatever. You wouldn't do that, right? So the
Yeah.
same way, don't do that to yourself, but rather looking at it from, okay, can I heal from it? How can I heal from it? What are the ways that can help me in this moment? And maybe there will be different tools along the way, but important is that you know that you can handle it as much as you allow yourself and as much as you seek help doing that with other people, right? So that's
Yeah.
why,
So
Aisha, it's a
yeah.
beautiful way that you are sharing that you have tapped into a lot of different ways to start your healing journey.
Yeah, I mean, like what you're saying is basically saying you turn your pain into power, right? You
Mm-hmm.
turn that pain into
Yes.
power. And there are many ways to turn that pain into power. First of all,
Yeah.
you need to look into yourself, like you said, reflect, know what happened, make peace with what happened, right?
Yes.
Make peace with what happened in a way. You say it has happened, it's not going to change anyway, it has happened. How do I deal with this? How do I walk away from this? And how do I use this pain to become a powerhouse, to become a healing house, to become a resource to somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing I know is nothing happens for a reason. Yes, some people might have painful experiences, but if you didn't go through those painful experiences, you wouldn't be the teacher that you are. You wouldn't know what it means. You would not be able to empathize with somebody who has gone through the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
how do you turn that pain? How do you turn that that those things that you almost want to say, I regret my life. But no, don't regret your life, because you went through that for a reason.
Yeah.
And maybe you should look inward and say, why did I go through this, and how can I use this to
Mm-hmm.
become somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's the kind of journey that we are on right now, looking
Yeah.
at what where we've walked, a path that we walk. Sometimes you need to walk back.
Yeah.
You lose something. I This is where I went through. You need to walk back to look for it. So
Yes.
what we're doing is you're walking back, not because you want to retrogress, or not because you want to stall your progress, but because sometimes you have to walk back to see where you left something, where you dropped something, and how you can pick it up and add it to your journey and keep going.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I think the way that I have learned from my own pain is that once you have gone through it, you stop judging other people.
Yes.
I don't know. That's, I think, a beautiful gift that I can give to myself, right? Because you start feeling like, okay, they probably are going in their own version of things that I have gone through, and they're doing their best to continue life and doing whatever the best they can for their children and family and loved ones, right? And
Mhm.
I think that's, whatever the way we can use the pain, not only change within ourselves, but also noticing how that can impact us, how it
Mhm.
can impact people around us, and how it may impact our transitioning moving forward, building the life we want to, right? And
Mhm.
my advocacy always is, how can we not let whatever the things that we labeled as very hard and difficult be the reason not to live the life we want to, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's really, how can we
Not
find
allow them
ways.
to stop us, right? Not allow them
Exactly.
to hold us back, because then you realize maybe these things have been holding you back for years. How can
Exactly.
we now not make how can we now make sure that they don't hold us back?
Yeah.
We take away those weights,
Exactly.
that I tell you that one of the things I ways I work with these things now, I try to deal with them is, just praying, like study the word. And as I talk about that, there's a scripture that came to mind that said how we should not let the weight that so easily beset us, or the weight that so easily stop us. So that's a weight, and it could easily
Yes.
stop you from moving. So, like the Bible says, you put away the weight that easily besets you. So how do we put
Mm,
away that weight is where we
exactly.
start working on. How
Yeah.
do you do it? Do you do it by turning inward, turning to the Word of God, and then go to therapy, talk about some of the things that happen? Because some of these things, you'll be surprised that we've never spoken about them.
Mm-hmm.
Can you heal from something that you've never spoken about? Maybe that's a question you also have to ask. Some
Yes.
people, maybe what would help them is they start talking about it,
Yeah.
like what we're doing now. You start confronting it. How do you
Yeah.
confront it? Do you talk about it? Do you go back? Do you forgive? Forgive
Mm-hmm.
yourself,
Mm-hmm.
forgive the people who hurt you. So
Yeah.
many things in this package of
Yeah.
healing,
Yeah.
so many things. So you can take it layer after layer. You
Yes.
go through the spiritual first, you can go through the it, and it's going to take a while. It's not going
Yeah.
to be automatic. I don't want anybody listening to think that you're going to be healed immediately from this. No, these are years of pain we're talking about. It's not magic. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of reflection. It takes a lot
Mm-hmm.
of faith doing some things, taking action sometimes,
Yeah.
like what we're doing now, we're talking about it.
Yeah.
It's not an easy conversation to have. It's
Yeah.
not easy. The world we're living now, it's not easy to be vulnerable about these things.
Yes.
I've never come on online or to come and talk about these things. So maybe
Yeah.
some people who know me, who think I'm always pleasant, smiling and everything, will be surprised to say, "Oh, so she carried this much." But
Mm-hmm.
it's not
Yeah.
easy to open yourself. But maybe
Yeah.
that's part of the healing journey for
Yeah,
us.
exactly. Amazing. Aisha, thank you so much for being here and talking about your journey. And as you said, it's not an easy topic, and it's not also a topic that we just go to, I don't know, a party and start talking about it,
Yeah.
obviously, right? But also, part of what we are trying to do is how can we talk about the most painful, the most, I don't know, maybe even shameful things in a way that helps us move forward,
Yeah.
creates spaces for others to think about their own journey, right? And also know that we don't need to make it so like tragic or so negative
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
we keep escaping and not
Yeah.
talking about it. That's really the part that we're trying to avoid. So that's why thank you so much for sharing this and being brave about how you're doing it. Amazing. And I'm just like, when I see my clients going through transitioning, and I feel like in transitioning we go through a lot of different things, not only finding a job, not only rebuilding the future, but also rebuilding the relationships, right? Rebuilding
Yeah.
relationships with people that we haven't been in touch in that way for a long time. So that's why we just touched currently one of the aspects, but we will be talking more about others as well. Aisha, your image is black, but I'm assuming everything is okay. So, thank you so much. I will be talking to you very soon. In the meantime, thank you all for being with us with Aisha and sharing our journey together. And if you would like to talk to us about this, please let us know. We're happy to talk to you. Oh, you're back.
Yeah,
I
I'm
was just
back. Oh,
saying,
it was on my side?
yeah, no problem. I
Oh,
just wanted to say if you would like to talk to Aisha, I will tag her name as well after this, and then you can reach out to her. If there is a way we can support in this journey of how not to escape self anymore, then
yeah.
we're here for you. Thank you so much, and I'll
Thank you
talk to you
so
very
much,
soon.
Estelle. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to your talk show.
Absolutely.
Thank
I will
you.
talk to
Talk
you
to you.
soon.
All right.
Bye,
Okay.
Major.
Bye.